April 15th, 1945. A black sergeant from Mississippi stands in a German village square, staring at a woman tied to a post. Her crime: saving lives. His choice: 60 seconds to decide between orders and conscience. This is the story of two people punished for doing what was right in systems built on hatred, and how one moment of courage echoed across 2 continents for 20 years. 09:45 hours. The village square is empty except for the woman and the post. Sergeant Marcus Webb of the 761st Tank Battalion steps from his jeep, boots crunching on broken cobblestone. 3 days earlier, his unit helped liberate a concentration camp sub-facility outside Nuremberg. The images still burn behind his eyes when he blinks. Now he's on reconnaissance patrol through villages, the Wehrmacht abandoned in their retreat. This place seems deserted like the others. Houses with windows dark, shops with doors hanging open, the smell of smoke and fear lingering in the spring air. But the square is not completely empty. There is the post. There is the woman. There is the sign hanging from her neck. Marcus is 28 years old. He grew up in Greenwood, Mississippi, where the rules were clear and brutal. Don't look white folks in the eye. Step off the sidewalk when they approach. Say yes, sir, and no, ma'am, and keep your head down. In 1942, he enlisted because he believed fighting for freedom in Europe might somehow bring freedom home. 3 years of combat have taught him that believing and receiving are different things. He approaches slowly, weapon ready, scanning windows and doorways. Ambushes hide in empty places, but nothing moves except wind pushing papers across the cobblestones. The woman slumps against the post, head hanging forward. Her scalp has been shaved, the job done roughly with what looks like kitchen shears or a straight razor. Dried blood marks the cuts. Her dress is torn and filthy. Bruises color her arms purple and yellow. The sign around her neck reads Traitor in crude painted letters. Marcus knows enough German from 3 years of combat. Traitor. He stops 10 feet away. Ma'am, can you hear me? Her head lifts slightly. Her eyes are swollen nearly shut, but they focus on him with effort. She tries to speak. Her lips crack and bleed from dehydration. Water, she whispers. Bitte. Please. Marcus unclips his canteen, moves closer, kneels. He holds it to her lips and she drinks desperately, choking slightly, then drinking more. Her wrists are bound to the post with wire that is cut into the skin. Her ankles are tied with rope. She has been here long enough that her legs cannot support her weight anymore. What happened? Marcus asks. Who did this? My name, Liesel Hoffman. I am. Was, teacher. Primary school. Her English comes in fragments, accent thick but understandable. They punish me. For hiding, Jewish family. 8 months I hide them. 3 weeks ago, discovered. Family taken. I am to die tomorrow. Marcus rocks back on his heels. The morning sun slants across the square, warming his face, but not the cold knot forming in his chest. He sees her wounds clearly now. This was not quick violence. This was systematic, public, meant to shame and terrify. Where is everyone? He asks. Run away. Soldiers coming. Nazi officials, They run too. Leave me here. Example for others. A memory surfaces unbidden. Summer of 1940. Greenwood. Marcus was 16, walking home from the cotton gin where he worked. He saw a white woman stumble on the sidewalk, reaching out to catch herself. Instinct made him step forward to steady her. Her husband saw. Within an hour, 3 sheriff's deputies had Marcus in a cell. They beat him with batons until his ribs cracked. His crime: touching a white woman. The law said his intent did not matter. The color of his skin determined guilt. The scars on his back still ache when weather changes. He looks at Liesel Hoffman tied to this post. Different country, different system. Same essential truth. She was punished for doing what was right in a system built to reward wrong. Then he hears it. The sound of engines. Multiple vehicles approaching from the east. His unit is returning from their patrol sweep. He has perhaps 60 seconds before they arrive in the square. 60 seconds to make a decision that will determine not just this woman's fate, but possibly his own. Military regulations are explicit. Non-fraternization with German civilians is prohibited. General Eisenhower issued the directive months ago and enforces it strictly. Soldiers are not to speak with Germans beyond official duties. They are not to show sympathy or provide assistance. The enemy is the enemy, even in defeat. For a black soldier, the prohibition carries additional weight. A black man helping a white German woman could face court-martial, could face execution, depending on who sits in judgment. 3 days ago, Marcus walked through a concentration camp. He saw ovens. He saw piles of skeletal remains. He saw survivors who looked more dead than alive, eyes hollow with horrors no human should witness. His unit's Jewish medic, Lieutenant Dr. Samuel Cohen, stood frozen in the camp entrance for 20 minutes, unable to process what his people had endured. That night, Cohen wept until he vomited. Every German is complicit, some in Marcus's unit argue. Every German knew or should have known. They deserve whatever happens to them now. But here is this woman who hid a Jewish family for months, who is beaten and shaved and tied to a post for that choice, who is dying of dehydration and exposure because she chose humanity over obedience. The engines grow louder. Marcus can distinguish individual vehicles now. 3 jeeps, probably. Maybe a truck. He pulls his combat knife from his belt. The blade catches sunlight. "Stay still," he tells Liesel. "I'm cutting you loose." The wire around her wrists requires sawing. It is thick and has been twisted tight. Blood wells fresh as he works the blade underneath. The rope around her ankles comes easier. Within 30 seconds, she is free. She immediately collapses. Her legs cannot hold her. Marcus catches her, and the wrongness of the moment hits him fully. A black man from Mississippi holding a white German woman in his arms. In another context, this could get him killed, has gotten men like him killed. But the jeeps are arriving now, and Private Johnson is jumping from the lead vehicle, and there is no time to consider implications. "Sarge, what the hell are you doing?" Johnson stares, eyes wide. Marcus stands, lifting Liesel. She weighs almost nothing. Starvation has hollowed her body. This woman needs medical attention. She's coming with us. Corporal Williams exits the second jeep. He is from Philadelphia, older than most at 35, and has seen enough to know when to ask questions and when to just move. "Put her in my vehicle. We got blankets." But Private Davis from Georgia steps forward. "We helping Nazis now, after what we just saw at that camp?" "Does she look like a Nazi to you?" Marcus's voice is steel. He learned command presence from necessity. Black sergeants in a white man's army maintain authority through absolute confidence, or lose it entirely. "She's coming with us. Anyone has a problem, take it up the chain." He places Liesel in Williams's jeep, wrapping her in a wool blanket. Her eyes meet his briefly, and he sees gratitude mixed with confusion. She does not understand why an American soldier would help her, a black American soldier. She is too exhausted and damaged to articulate the questions. She simply closes her eyes. The convoy returns to battalion headquarters, established in a requisitioned brewery 3 kilometers from the village. The 761st Tank Battalion, known as the Black Panthers, has been in continuous combat since November of 1944. They landed at Omaha Beach, fought through France, crossed into Germany. Their combat record rivals or exceeds any white unit, though recognition remains scarce. Awards and commendations somehow get lost in paperwork. Recommendations for medals disappear. The battalion fights with distinction and receives footnotes in history. Marcus carries Liesel into the aid station where Lieutenant Dr. Cohen is cataloging medical supplies. Cohen looks up, sees the woman, and his expression hardens immediately. German civilian, critical condition, dehydration, malnutrition, head trauma. Marcus lays her on an exam table. Cohen approaches, but does not touch her. He stares at her shaved head, the wounds, the bruises. 3 days ago, this man walked through evidence of genocide against his people. Now Marcus asks him to treat a German. "Doc, she hid a Jewish family for 8 months. They caught her 3 weeks ago. She was tied to a post waiting to be executed." Cohen's hands, which had been clenched at his sides, slowly relax. He steps closer, begins his examination. Professional training overrides personal anguish, but barely. His movements are mechanical as he checks vital signs, examines wounds, starts an intravenous line for fluids. "Family Goldstein," Liesel whispers in delirium. "Aut monate. 8 months. ENTDECKT. Discovered. Double quotes." Cohen freezes. "What did she say? Something about Goldstein family? 8 months. Discovered." The doctor's hands begin to shake. He steadies them by gripping the exam table edge. "Goldstein. That was my mother's maiden name." He looks at Liesel with different eyes now. Not enemy, not even patient. Something else. A bridge between worlds. "Tell me everything." Over the next hour, as Cohen treats her injuries, Liesel's story emerges in fragments. She taught at the primary school in the village since 1935. She watched as Jewish students were expelled in 1938 after Kristallnacht. Good students, bright children, gone overnight because bureaucracy redefined humanity. She continued teaching who she was allowed to teach, but something inside her rejected the rules. September of 1944. The Goldstein family arrived desperate at her door after midnight. Father Abraham, 45, had been a banker in Munich. Mother Sarah, 43, was a pianist. Daughters Rachel, 8, and Miriam, 12, were terrified and exhausted. They had been hiding in various places since 1942 when deportations intensified. Their latest refuge had been compromised. They had nowhere else to go. Abraham had known Liesel's father before the war. It was a thin connection, but thin connections were all that remained. Liesel had a choice. Open the door or pretend she did not hear the knocking. One choice meant safety. One choice meant enormous risk. She opened the door. The school had a basement, unused and forgotten, a coal storage room from when the building heated with furnaces. Liesel moved her classroom supplies to create a hidden living space. For 8 months, the Goldstein family lived in that basement. Liesel brought food, water, books for the girls. Rachel's birthday came in January. Liesel made a small cake with precious rationed ingredients. Miriam learned English from books Liesel smuggled in. Abraham taught both daughters mathematics. Sarah hummed melodies softly so neighbors would not hear. They existed in a space between life and death, sustained by one woman's defiance. March 15, 1945. A neighbor, Frau Mueller, grew suspicious. Why did the schoolteacher carry so much food into the building? Why did she spend so many hours there after classes ended? Frau Mueller reported her suspicions to the local Gauleiter, the regional Nazi official. The Gestapo raided the school. They found the Goldsteins. They also found the small resistance network that had helped Liesel, the Lutheran pastor who provided extra ration cards, the farmer who supplied vegetables without asking questions, the doctor who treated Sarah when she fell ill. All arrested. The pastor was hanged in the village square the next day. The farmer was sent to Dachau. The doctor disappeared, likely shot. Liesel they saved for special punishment, public humiliation, an example for anyone else who might harbor sympathy for Jews. They shaved her head, beat her, tied her to the post with the sign, "Tomorrow, April 16th, they plan to execute her in the square." But the Wehrmacht retreated faster than expected. Allied forces advanced quicker than anticipated. The Nazi officials fled. They left Liesel tied to the post, assuming either execution would happen or she would die of exposure. Either way, the example would be made. The family, Cohen asks quietly when she finishes. Abraham, Sarah, Rachel, Miriam. Where did they take them? Camp. Near here. Small camp. I don't know name. Cohen closes his eyes. Marcus knows what the doctor is thinking. 3 days ago, they liberated that camp. Cohen saw what happened to people sent there. No one survived. But Cohen finishes treating Liesel's wounds. He ensures she receives fluids and nutrients. He dresses her head lacerations. He works with the care his Hippocratic oath demands, and when he finishes, he stands by her bedside for a long moment. "You gave them 8 more months," he says. 8 months of life, of family, of hope. That is not nothing. Liesel begins to cry. Not loud sobs, but silent tears that leak from swollen eyes. Cohen places his hand on her shoulder, an act of benediction and recognition. Then he leaves the aid station, and Marcus follows, because Cohen looks like he might break. Outside, Cohen leans against the brewery wall. "My grandmother was a Goldstein. I never knew her. She died in Poland before I was born. But my mother told stories about her kindness, her strength." He looks at Marcus. "You did the right thing bringing her. I needed to see that not all Germans are monsters, that some people resisted, that some people chose humanity." He pauses. "Even if it was too few, far too few." Captain Reynolds arrives an hour later. He's a white officer from Virginia, 42 years old, career military. He treats his black soldiers with professional respect, which is more than many white officers manage, but less than true equality. He listens to Marcus's report in the brewery office that serves as battalion headquarters. "You violated non-fraternization protocols, Sergeant." "Yes, sir. Medical emergency required immediate intervention. You could face charges." "Yes, sir." Reynolds studies Marcus for a long time. The captain is not a bad man. He is simply a product of his world, where hierarchies are assumed and rarely questioned. But 3 years of combat have taught him that courage and character do not correlate with skin color, despite what Virginia taught him growing up. "Dr. Cohen supports your assessment that this was medical emergency?" "Yes, sir." "And the woman's testimony indicates she actively resisted Nazi authority?" "Yes, sir. She hid a Jewish family for 8 months. She was awaiting execution when we found her." Reynolds nods slowly. "No charges will be. You followed proper protocol for a non-combatant in distress. However, Sergeant, be aware that not everyone in the chain of command will see it as I do. A black soldier and a white German woman. Optics matter." "Understood, sir." Dismissed. Marcus salutes and leaves. But the weight of Reynolds' words stays with him. Optics matter. Perception matters. The truth of the situation matters less than how it appears. A black man helping a white woman can be twisted into something sinful regardless of context. He has lived this reality his entire life. He hoped the army might be different. He was wrong. 2 days later, counterintelligence corps arrives. Captain Harrison is a thin man with wire-rimmed glasses and a methodical mind. CIC handles intelligence gathering, interrogation of prisoners, identification of war criminals. Liesl has recovered enough to speak coherently, and Harrison spends 6 hours interviewing her in the brewery office, while Marcus is asked to wait outside. When Harrison emerges, he looks thoughtful. Sergeant Webb, your instincts were sound. Miss Hoffman's testimony is valuable. She can identify local Nazi officials, collaborators, and the network that betrayed her. She'd be an important witness in war crimes proceedings. What happens to her now, sir? Protective custody. Eventually transferred to British zone authorities. There will be trials. Nuremberg for the major criminals, but also trials throughout Germany for regional and local offenders. People like Miss Hoffman, who resisted, provide crucial testimony. Liesl is moved to a displaced persons facility under Allied protection. Marcus sees her once more before the transfer. She's been given clean clothes, proper food, medical care. Color has returned to her face, though her hair remains short and uneven. Thank you, she says. You did not have to help me. I am German. You are. I do not know correct word. American liberator. I saw someone who needed help. Same as you did when the Goldsteins came to your door. It is not same. You risk much. Your commanders, your fellow soldiers, they question your choice. Some did. Some understood. That's how it works. She studies his face. You understand persecution. I see it in your eyes. You know what it means to be punished for who you are, not what you do. Marcus does not answer immediately. The truth is complicated and painful. My country has its own problems, its own injustices. I'm fighting for freedom here while my people don't have it at home. That's an irony I live with every day. Perhaps this war changes things. Perhaps after there is justice for everyone. Marcus wants to believe her. He wants to think that fighting fascism abroad will end racism at home. But he knows better. He will return to Mississippi when the war ends. He will return to segregation, to Jim Crow laws, to a system that considers him 3/5 human at best. Liberation is for Europe. America's contradictions remain unresolved. Perhaps, he says, because hope costs nothing and she deserves kindness. They shake hands, and then she is gone, transferred to British custody and a future in a Germany that must reckon with its past. April 20th, 1945. 5 days after finding Liesl, Marcus's unit discovers the main concentration camp near Nuremberg. This is no sub-facility. This is a full extermination center. The images that follow will haunt Marcus until his dying day. Bodies stacked like cordwood, ovens still warm, survivors who look like animated skeletons, eyes too large and shrunken faces. The smell of death so thick it seems solid. Dr. Cohen enters the camp and stops walking. He stands in the gateway for 20 minutes, unable to process the evidence before him. Other soldiers vomit. Some weep openly. Some stand in silence, minds unable to categorize what they witness. This exceeds horror. This is industrial murder. Systematic elimination of human beings treated as logistical problem to be solved with German efficiency. Liesl has been brought as translator and witness. She speaks to survivors in German, helping medical personnel understand who needs immediate care. One survivor, an elderly man named Josef, recognizes her story. Goldstein family, he says. I knew them. We arrived same transport. Abraham, Sarah, 2 daughters. What happened? Liesl's voice is barely audible. Separated immediately. Abraham selected for work detail. Lasted maybe 1 week. Sarah and the girls went directly to the chambers. This was 3 weeks ago, perhaps less. Time is difficult here. Liesl closes her eyes. Her knees buckle slightly, but Marcus catches her elbow, steadies her. She knew this truth already. Suspected it with certainty. But confirmation is a different weight. The family she hid for 8 months, gave hope and safety, survived because of her courage, died within hours or days of capture. All that effort, all that risk, for 8 more months of life that ended in gas and fire. 8 months, Marcus says quietly. 8 months they had family. 8 months they had hope. 8 months they were human beings with dignity. That matters, does it? They died anyway. Everyone does. How we live is what matters. You gave them life when the world wanted them dead. That matters. Joseph, the survivor, reaches out to touch Liesl's hand. You are why some of us survive. People like you. The Germans who said no. The Germans who hid us, fed us, helped us. Not many, but some. That kept us human, knowing some people still had conscience. You are righteous among nations. The phrase is biblical, Marcus learns later. Righteous among nations, Gentiles who saved Jews during the Holocaust. After the war, an organization called Yad Vashem will document and honor these individuals. Liesl Hoffman's name will be among them, though that recognition lies years in the future. For now, she stands in a concentration camp, surrounded by evidence of genocide, knowing the people she tried to save died here. Marcus sees her face and recognizes the expression. Survivor's guilt, the weight of living when others died. He knows soldiers who carry this. Men who survive battles that killed their friends. The arbitrary nature of death creates guilt in survivors that logic cannot ease. You did everything you could, Marcus tells her. The evil that killed them is not your responsibility. The good that kept them alive for 8 months is. She nods but does not seem convinced. Trauma does not yield to logic or kindness. It burrows deep and remains, a permanent resident in the soul. June 1945. Preliminary war crimes investigations begin. Liesl testifies against the local Gauleiter, identifying him from photographs. She testifies against Frau Müller, who betrayed the Goldsteins. She testifies against the Gestapo officers who beat her. Her testimony is calm, detailed, devastating. She recounts facts without emotion, which makes the horror more profound. This is not vengeance speaking. This is witness bearing truth. Marcus attends the proceeding. He has been called as witness to her rescue to corroborate her condition when found. He sits in the back of the room while she describes 8 months of hiding a Jewish family. She explains her motivations simply. They were human beings. They needed help. I could help. So I did. The tribunal asks if she understood the risks. Yes. They ask if she regrets her actions. I regret they died. I regret I could not save them. I regret I was caught. I do not regret trying. The Gauleiter is convicted. Death sentence. Frau Müller receives 20 years. Other collaborators receive various sentences. Justice is imperfect and incomplete, but it exists. Accountability comes slowly to Germany, but it comes. After her testimony, Liesl finds Marcus outside the courthouse. I leave for British Zone. I wanted to thank you again before I go. You don't need to thank me. You would have done the same. Yes. But that does not diminish what you did. She pauses. May I ask you something? Why? You are American soldier. Black American soldier. I'm German woman. We are enemies by definition. You risk punishment to help me. Why? Marcus considers the question. He thinks about Mississippi, about post-war, about the concentration camp, about systems built on hatred and the people who resist them, because you were punished for doing the right thing in a system built on doing wrong. I understand that. I live in a system that punishes people for the color of their skin, that beats them, kills them, denies them humanity. Different system, same principle. When I saw you tied to that post, I recognized something. Courage under oppression. I couldn't walk away from that. She absorbs this. Your country will change. It must. After this war, after fighting fascism, they cannot continue their own form of it. Marcus smiles sadly. I hope you're right. But hope and reality are different things. Then we make reality match hope. You fight here. You fight there when you return. Courage under oppression, you said. You have this too. They exchange addresses. This is common practice among soldiers and civilians whose lives intersect during war. Most addresses go unused. Letters get started but not sent. Connections fade as distance and time erode shared experience. But some connections endure. August 1945. Japan surrenders. The war ends. The 761st Tank Battalion prepares for redeployment to the United States. Marcus packs his few belongings, cleans his weapon, prepares for the journey home. 3 years in Europe have changed him. He is harder, quieter, more distant. He has seen things no one should see. He has done things necessary, but not good. He has liberated camps and killed enemies, and carried wounded friends, and discovered that war reveals both the best and worst of humanity, often simultaneously. The battalion boards ships at Le Havre. The crossing takes 10 days. Men talk about home, about what they will do first, where they will go, who they will see. Marcus stays quiet. He knows what awaits him. Mississippi has not changed. The war ended in Europe and the Pacific, but the war for equality at home continues unabated. The ship docks in Norfolk, Virginia. The battalion disembarks to ceremony and celebration. Crowds cheer, bands play. For approximately 6 hours, the black soldiers of the 761st are heroes. Then, they board segregated trains heading south. White soldiers sit in clean cars with cushioned seats. Black soldiers sit in colored cars, older equipment, harder benches. The celebration ends. Reality resumes. Marcus returns to Greenwood, Mississippi in September of 1945. The town looks exactly as he left it. Same streets, same buildings, same divisions. He wears his uniform with its sergeant stripes and combat ribbons. He walks into a diner where he used to wash dishes before enlisting. He sits at the counter. "We don't serve colored here," the waitress says. She is new. She does not recognize him. "I just returned from Europe. I've fought for this country for 3 years. I don't care if you fought for Jesus Christ himself. We don't serve colored at the counter. You can order at the back window." Marcus stands and leaves. He does not argue. Argument accomplishes nothing. The irony is not lost on him. He fought against fascism abroad and returned to apartheid at home. He liberated concentration camps while his own people live under legally enforced segregation. The contradiction is not subtle, but he does not accept it passively. He begins attending NAACP meetings. He connects with other veterans, black men who fought for freedom and returned to find none. They organize. They strategize. They prepare for a long struggle they know will span decades. The war abroad is over. The war at home is just beginning. In Germany, Liesel rebuilds her life. The British zone where she resides becomes part of democratic West Germany. She returns to teaching, working with organizations dedicated to Holocaust education. She speaks at schools, telling her story not for glory but for memory. She ensures that students understand what happened, why it happened, how ordinary people became complicit through silence or active participation, and how a few chose resistance despite enormous personal cost. In 1962, Yad Vashem, the World Holocaust Remembrance Center in Israel, recognizes Liesel as righteous among the nations. The ceremony is small but meaningful. Her name is added to the garden in Jerusalem where trees are planted for each rescuer. The honor comes with a medal and a certificate. Liesel accepts it quietly, stating that she does not feel deserving of recognition for doing what any decent human should do. Throughout these years, Marcus and Liesel maintain correspondence. Letters cross the Atlantic 2 or 3 times per year. They share news of their lives, their work, their struggles. Marcus writes about the growing civil rights movement, about Rosa Parks and the Montgomery bus boycott, about lunch counter sit-ins and freedom rides. Liesel writes about Germany's reckoning with its past, about education efforts, about the slow, painful process of building democracy from totalitarianism's ruins. In 1965, 20 years after the war's end, Liesel visits the United States. She is invited to speak at universities about her experiences. Her tour includes stops in New York, Boston, Chicago. She adds an unofficial stop, Greenwood, Mississippi. Marcus meets her at the bus station. They are both older now. He is 48, hair graying at the temples, lines deep around his eyes. She is 45, hair grown back but kept short, face worn by memory and time. They embrace briefly, awkwardly, aware that even in 1965, a black man and white woman embracing in Mississippi draws hostile stares. "Welcome to my world," Marcus says. She looks around the bus station. Separate waiting rooms marked colored and white, separate water fountains, separate bathroom. The infrastructure of segregation on full display. This is like Germany before the war. The laws against Jews, separate spaces, separate rules, exactly like that. And people here defend it with the same arguments. Tradition, culture, natural order. Different words, same hatred. Liesel is in America during a pivotal moment. The Selma to Montgomery marches are planned for March. Marcus is involved in organizing. When he mentions this, Liesel insists on participating. He tries to dissuade her. There will be violence. Alabama state troopers will attack marchers. It is dangerous, especially for a white woman marching alongside black activists. "You think I don't know dangerous?" she asks. "I hid a Jewish family for 8 months. I was beaten and left to die." Dangerous is familiar. On March 7, 1965, 600 marchers attempt to cross the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma. State troopers attack with clubs and tear gas. The day becomes known as Bloody Sunday. Liesel is there, near the back of the march, and experiences the violence firsthand. She is knocked down but not seriously injured. Marcus, marching in the front ranks, suffers a fractured arm and lacerations from a trooper's baton. In the hospital afterwards, they sit together in the colored waiting area, both bandaged, both exhausted. "Same fight," Liesel says. "Different country, different era, same fight. Humanity against hatred. Been fighting my whole life. Wonder sometimes if we're making progress or just going in circles. Progress is not circle. Progress is spiral. We pass same points, but at higher level. Each generation rises slightly. My parents' generation allowed Hitler. My generation must ensure nothing like it happens again. Your parents' generation endured slavery and its aftermath. Your generation fights for civil rights. The next generation will inherit what we build. A lot of faith in progress, not faith. determination. We make progress by refusing to accept injustice. You taught me this in 1945. You could have left me on that post. You chose not to. One choice. But it rippled. I survived. I testified. I educated thousands of students about Holocausts. Some of those students will ensure genocide never happens again. Your choice created ripples. Marcus considers this. He thinks about that April morning in 1945. 60 seconds to decide. He cut the ropes and changed both their lives. She is right about ripples. Actions create consequences that extend far beyond immediate moment. Perhaps progress is just accumulated ripples from millions of people making small choices toward justice. 2 weeks after Selma, President Johnson addresses Congress calling for voting rights legislation. He uses the phrase, "We shall overcome," borrowing from the movement's anthem. The Voting Rights Act passes in August of 1965. It is imperfect, and enforcement will be an ongoing struggle, but it represents progress, spiral, not circle. Liesel returns to Germany, but the connection with Marcus remains strong. They continue correspondence, now more frequent. They have become witnesses for each other, validating experiences that others might dismiss or minimize. She understands his fight because she fought her own version. He understands her guilt because he carries his own. In 1978, the 761st Tank Battalion finally receives proper recognition. President Carter awards the unit a Presidential Unit Citation for extraordinary heroism. The ceremony occurs 33 years after the war's end. Many members of the battalion have died. Recognition comes late, delayed by racism that diminished black soldiers' contributions for decades. Marcus attends the ceremony in Washington, D.C. He wears his old uniform, now tied around the middle, medals pinned to his chest. He stands with fellow veterans, black men, now in their 60s and 70s, finally acknowledged for their courage and sacrifice. The applause is genuine, but cannot erase 3 decades of neglect. Liesel sends a telegram. Recognition delayed is not justice denied if it comes at last. Proud of you. Your courage honored. Finally, Marcus keeps the telegram in his wallet for the rest of his life. The years pass. Marcus retires from his work as a community organizer in 1985. He has spent 40 years fighting for civil rights, voter registration, education access, economic justice. Progress has been made. Schools are integrated, though often poorly. Voting rights are protected, though often challenged. Legal segregation has ended, though practical segregation persists. The work is incomplete but advanced beyond what seemed possible in 1945. Liesel continues her education work into her 70s. She speaks at schools and universities, participates in Holocaust remembrance ceremonies, works with organizations that combat anti-Semitism and racism. Her message is consistent. Hatred thrives on silence. Resistance requires courage, and ordinary people have extraordinary power to choose good over evil. In 1995, 50 years after the war's end, both Marcus and Liesel attend a commemoration ceremony in Berlin. The event honors both liberators and rescuers, bringing together veterans and righteous Gentiles to mark the anniversary. Marcus is 78. Liesel is 75. They meet for what both suspect will be the final time. They walk slowly through the city, Marcus using a cane, Liesel moving carefully on arthritic knees. Berlin has transformed. The wall that divided it for decades has fallen. East and West are reunifying. The city represents both history's horrors and humanity's capacity for renewal. We survived, Liesel says. Not just the war, the aftermath. All these years, we did more than survive. We fought, we resisted, we tried to make things better. Did we succeed? Marcus considers, not completely, but more than if we'd done nothing. You saved for people for 8 months. You testified against war criminals. You educated thousands of students. I helped register voters, organize communities, push for civil rights. We didn't solve everything, but we added our weight to the scale. That's all anyone can do. The young people now, they think we're old stories, history. They don't understand how close. The darkness always is. Then we keep telling the stories, keep reminding them. Vigilance is the price of freedom. Not a new truth, but a permanent one. They stand together at the Holocaust Memorial, reading names inscribed on walls. Somewhere among the millions is family Goldstein. Abraham, Sarah, Rachel, Miriam. 4 people who lived because one woman opened her. 4 people who died because a system required their death. Both truths coexist. I think about them every day, Liesel says, 50 years later. Every day. That's the price of surviving. We carry the dead with us. But we also carry their memory forward. We make sure they're not forgotten. Marcus returns to Mississippi. Liesl returns to Germany. Their correspondence continues, though letters come less frequently. Age slows both of them. Marcus develops heart problems. Liesl suffers a minor stroke. The physical toll of 8 decades accumulates. In 2003, Marcus visits the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum in Washington, D.C. He is 86 years old, frail but determined. His grandson accompanies him. Pushing a wheelchair when walking becomes too difficult. They move through exhibits documenting the Holocaust's history, the rise of Nazism, the implementation of genocide, the liberation of camps. They reach the section honoring righteous among the nations. A display shows photographs and names of Gentiles who rescued Jews. Marcus sees her name, Liesl Hoffmann, Germany, rescued. Goldstein family, September 1944, March 1945. He stands there for a long time, leaning heavily on his cane, staring at her photograph. It is an old picture, taken sometime in the 1960s. She looks serious, determined, eyes that have seen darkness but refuse to surrender to it. His grandson asks, "Did you know her, Grandpa?" "I saved her life," Marcus says quietly, "and she saved mine in a different way. She showed me that courage exists everywhere, that people can choose good even when systems demand evil, and that resistance matters even if it fails. Especially if it fails. Tell me the story." Marcus tells him. April 15th, 1945. A village square in Bavaria. A woman tied to a post. 60 seconds to decide. He tells about cutting the ropes, about the 8-month underground shelter, about the Goldstein family, about testimony at war crimes trials, about Selma and civil rights, about 50 years of correspondence with a German teacher who understood oppression because she fought it. His grandson listens, and Marcus sees recognition in the young man's eyes. Understanding that history is not abstract. It is choices made by individuals in specific moments. It is courage under pressure. It is the accumulated weight of people who said no to injustice when saying yes was easier. What happened to her? His grandson asks. Still alive, last I heard. In her 80s now. Still teaching, still speaking, still fighting. People like her don't quit. People like you either. Marcus smiles. We're stubborn. Comes from practice. They leave the museum as closing time approaches. Marcus takes one last look at Liesl's photograph. He wishes he could tell her what seeing her name in this place means to him, that her courage has been documented, recognized, immortalized, that the fight she fought alone in a school basement is now part of history's record. He writes her a letter when he returns home. His handwriting is shaky now, but the words are clear. Saw your name at the Holocaust Museum today. Felt proud. You earned that recognition 1,000 times over. We're old now. Don't know how much time any of us has left, but I want you to know something before time runs out. That morning in April 45, when I cut those ropes, you changed my life as much as I changed yours. You showed me that the fight for humanity transcends nationality, race, all the divisions people create. You were German. I was Black American. By every rule of that time and place, we should have been enemies. Instead, we recognized something deeper. Shared humanity, shared courage. That recognition carried me through 58 years of fighting for civil rights. When things got hard, when progress seemed impossible, I thought about you tied to that post. If you could risk everything to hide a Jewish family, I could risk whatever was necessary to fight for justice. Thank you for that. Thank you for being exactly who you are. Your friend always, Marcus. He mails the letter. 2 weeks later, a response arrives. Her handwriting is also shaky, letters large and uneven. Your letter made me happy tears. You say I changed your life, but you saved mine, literally and metaphorically. That morning I had given up. I was waiting to die. Then you appeared. Black American soldier who had every reason to hate Germans. Instead you saw a person in distress. You chose humanity. That choice echoed through 60 years of my life. Every time I spoke to students, every time I testified about Holocaust, every time I fought against hatred, I thought about your choice. If you could see beyond race and nationality to help enemy civilian, surely I could continue fighting for education and memory. We saved each other, Marcus. That's the truth. We both fought oppression. Different forms, different places, but same essential battle. And we're still here, still fighting. That means something. That means we won. Your friend always, Liesl. Marcus Webb dies in 2006 at age 89. Heart failure, peacefully, surrounded by family. His obituary mentions his service in the 761st Tank Battalion. his decades of civil rights activism, his role in voter registration drives and desegregation efforts. It does not mention Liesl Hoffman. That story was personal, not public, but at his funeral, his grandson reads the letters, all of them. 23 letters exchanged over 61 years. He reads about a German teacher and a black American soldier who found common cause across every divide that should have separated. He reads about courage, resistance, and the ripple effects of choosing humanity over hatred. Among the mourners is a representative from the Holocaust Museum. She heard about Marcus's connection to a Righteous Among Nations recipient. After the service, she asks the grandson for permission to archive the letters. He agrees. The correspondence becomes part of the museum's collection, available to researchers and educators. Liesl Hoffman dies in 2009 at age 89. Her obituary in German newspapers mentions her recognition as righteous among nations, her decades of Holocaust education, her testimony at war crimes trials. It mentions that she never married, never had children, devoted her life to ensuring genocide's memory remained alive. It does not mention Marcus Webb. That story was personal, not public. But at her funeral, a colleague from the Education Foundation reads from Liesl's journal, an entry from April 15, 1945. Today, I should have died. Instead, I was saved by a man who had no reason to help me. American soldier. Black man. I am German woman. We are enemies by definition. But he saw past that. He saw a human being. He chose mercy. I do not know his name yet or why he made this choice. But if I survive this war, I will spend the rest of my life trying to deserve his mercy. I will fight against hatred in all forms. I will teach about courage and resistance. I will honor his choice by making my life meaningful. The colleague continues with later entries. Liesl's work with students, her testimony at trials, her trip to America and participation in Selma, her friendship with Marcus across 61 years. The journal documents a life dedicated to the principles demonstrated in one 60-second choice on one April morning. The colleague concludes, Liesl Hoffman believed that individuals matter, that choices matter, that courage in small moments creates ripples across decades. She lived that belief every day. In 2012, the Holocaust Museum mounts an exhibition called Rescuers and Liberators, Unlikely Allies. It tells the stories of connections between those who liberated camps and those who rescued Jews. Marcus Webb and Liesl Hoffman are featured prominently. Their photographs hang side by side, his in uniform taken 1945, hers at the Yad Vashem ceremony taken 1962. Between the photos is a display case containing their letters, carefully preserved and translated. Visitors read the correspondence. They learn about the village square, the 60-second decision, the 8-month shelter, the Goldstein family, the parallel fights against oppression. They see that history is not just armies and governments. It is individuals making choices. It is courage under pressure. It is recognition of shared humanity, despite every reason to see enemies instead of humans. A visitor writes in the comment book, these two people prove that goodness exists even in history's darkest moments. That ordinary people can make extraordinary choices. That courage is contagious across time and space. Their story gives me hope. Another writes, they remind us that the fight for justice never ends. Each generation must choose. Will we accept oppression or resist it? Will we see divisions or recognize shared humanity? Their choice echoes forward, challenging us to make our own choices. This is legacy, not monuments or statues, not fame or fortune. Simply the proof that courage matters, that resistance matters, that choosing humanity over hatred matters. Marcus Webb and Liesl Hoffman never sought recognition. They simply did what they believed was right in moments that demanded choice. April 15, 1945. A black sergeant from Mississippi stands in a German village square. A woman hangs from a post, sign around her neck marking her traitor. He has 60 seconds to decide between protocol and conscience. He cuts the ropes. That choice ripples across 7 decades, touching thousands of lives, adding weight to the scale of justice. The darkness is always close. Hatred always threatens. Oppression always waits. But so does courage. So does resistance. So does the choice to see human beings instead of enemies. Marcus Webb and Liesl Hoffman made that choice. Their story reminds us that we face the same choice every day, in moments large and small. The question is not whether we will face the choice. The question is what we will choose when the moment comes. History records their answer. They chose humanity. They chose courage. They chose each other across every divide. And in doing so, they prove that even in war's darkest moments, light persists. Not because darkness is weak, but because people refuse to let it win. This story reminds us that courage can emerge in the most unexpected moments, from the most unlikely people. Marcus Webb had 60 seconds to choose between following orders and following his conscience. His decision not only saved a life, but created ripples that echoed across 7 decades. If this story moved you, if it made you think about the power of individual choice in the face of injustice, please hit that like button. It helps us share these forgotten stories of courage with more people who need to hear them. And if you're not already subscribed, consider joining our community. We dive deep into untold historical moments where ordinary people made extraordinary choices. These are the stories that textbooks often overlook, but they're the ones that remind us of our shared humanity. Most importantly, leave a comment below. Tell us, have you ever faced a moment where you had to choose between what was easy and what was right? What would you have done in Marcus Webb's position? Your perspective matters, and this community thrives on meaningful conversations about history, courage, and the choices that define us. Thank you for watching, for remembering, and for carrying these stories forward. Because as long as we remember the Marcus Webbs and Liesl Hoffmans of history, their courage continues to inspire new generations to stand against injustice. See you in the next story.